Hello, everybody. I'm Daniel. I'm the founder of Startup CPG. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe. We've got a lot of cool content. And today, I am a huge fan of this session. So, we're going to be talking to the Non-GMO Project Verified team about the whole process. I think, for me as a brand starting out, this was always one of the things that you just like don't know what you don't know. You're like, yeah, I think I need that. I don't know. How do I even get started? What does it mean? Like, how much of a look under the hood is everybody really going to take? So we're going to get to all of these questions and also just talk about what does the butterfly do for you when you actually have it on your packaging? What does it mean to retailers who often, you just when you apply to a specific retailer, you just can either check the box that says you have that certification or not, right? So we'll be talking about that, and as well as what does it mean to consumers. So yeah, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and pass over to the Non-GMO Project Verified team. And I'm just going to also paste a little contact info for them because I know we'll get to this at the end. But just in case you want to chat with their team, I've got their email and website listed in the chat here. And just so everyone knows, all the slides will be emailed out to you, and you can also get the recording on our YouTube, and that's all in the chat. All right, passing over to you guys.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Daniel. Hope everyone can hear me. Yeah.
Yep.
Working with two screens here, so bear with me as I settle into my tech zone. All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good day to you all, wherever you're calling in from. My name is Hans. I'm a director here at the Non-GMO Project. Welcome from wherever you're joining. We are really grateful to be a part of the startup CPG community. We love working with exciting new emerging brands, really bringing innovation to the food industry. Like you, we were a startup with just one employee about 18 years ago. Employee number one is our founder and CEO, and she still leads our organization. We're about 40 people strong. And Sam, I believe you're running the slides. Thank you so much. So again, very pleased to meet you all, tell you a little bit more about the Non-GMO Project, our verification program, share some of our insights into the natural products industry. This is what we'll try to cover during our time together. If you joined us the last time, you'll hear some familiar things, but we do have some exciting and different things to share with you as well. Most of all, this is really just an introduction to answer some basic questions. Who are we? Why do we exist as an organization? What does it mean to get Non-GMO Project verified? Which shoppers are looking for non-GMO products? Why you should consider it to reach US and Canadian grocery stores? And what does the process actually look like? Now, if you're relatively new to the CPG industry, we want you to think of us as another friend and advocate, which is exactly why we really value being a part of this community. A really important part of our business is working with very small startup mom and pop companies that are trying to break into what can be a pretty tough industry. So after my colleagues and I cover some of the ABCs of third-party certification, we are super excited to introduce you to a brand that's already verified. We'll be talking with Oliver Powell from Dojo Fresh. They're a non-GMO project client with a number of verified plant proteins. Really cool product. So you'll definitely want to stay tuned for that part of the chat here. Okay, first principles. Who is the Non-GMO Project? Well, as I mentioned, we're a small group of people working at a nonprofit organization. We're based in Bellingham, Washington, which is nestled right up against the Canadian border, beautiful Pacific Northwest. We all share a passion for good food, and we all care about working to improve the food system in ways that benefit shoppers, benefit the environment, really benefit all living things. And like most mission-driven nonprofits, we actually work to put ourselves out of business. We'd love to help create a food system that's free from GMOs, but it's bigger than that. We really want to help create a food system that people can trust, a food system that nourishes all life and that works with nature, not against it. So let's do a quick history on GMOs. I'll spend too much time on this slide, but bear with me for just a moment. The first genetically modified crops were developed in the 1970s and 80s. The two main commodity crops were GMO corn, GMO soybeans, but now they include things like genetically modified sugar from sugar beets, canola oil, potatoes, tomatoes, papaya, apples, and more. But the two most common genetic modifications are actually to insert new genetic material into seeds so that that plant will withstand heavy spraying of herbicides. And secondly, to insert genes so that a plant produces its own toxic pesticides. Many times, both of these genetic traits are inserted into the same plants. The end result is often a huge monocrop of corn or soy that over time degrades soil health and kills biodiversity. Now, there's lots of reasons to question the safety and wisdom of genetically modifying our food, but these are the primary reasons it's done today. So GMOs were developed to allow for more use of chemicals that are deadly to all other plants and to many insects. By the 1990s, GMO corn and GMO soy had taken over more than 2/3 of all cropland in the US, and GMO ingredients were making their way into about 75% of all packaged foods at the grocery store. That's the USDA estimating that ubiquity of GMOs in packaged foods. And if you've ever driven through the middle of the country, you've seen millions of endless acres of corn and soybeans. Literally 95% of that is GMO. So by the 2000s, there was growing awareness and concern about just how much GMOs had changed farming. And at the same time, the quality of a lot of our food had actually gone down. People were more concerned about the connection between how their food is grown and their own personal health, as well as the health of the environment. Let's take high fructose corn syrup as just one example. It's a cheap and widely available ingredient to food manufacturers. It's much cheaper than another sweetener, say cane sugar. It's everywhere. Where does high fructose corn syrup come from? GMO corn. So many people started getting concerned about this and they began to make an effort to avoid GMOs, but they found that incredibly challenging. At that time, there was no way to tell if a box of, say, rice pilaf or a bag of tortilla chips contained any GMO ingredients. So a grassroots movement was born, and shoppers who wanted to avoid GMOs started asking the government to start labeling for GMOs. These activists actually made some progress in several states. California, Colorado, Vermont, they all started to develop state laws that would have required labels for food containing GMOs. But the federal government stepped in and said, no, you can't do that on a state-by-state basis. At the same time that that labeling movement was happening, two grocery stores, one in Southern California and one in Toronto, Canada, had the idea. If people are trying to avoid GMOs and they're coming into our stores asking how to avoid GMOs, then why don't we actually create a voluntary program to label non-GMO foods? So the Non-GMO Project was born in 2007 out of those retailer efforts. The first products to carry Non-GMO Project verification started arriving on grocery store shelves 15 years ago in 2010. So how do we know shoppers want non-GMO options? You can go to the next slide, actually. Sam, thank you. Well, one measure of it is just how much we've grown, right, since 2010. Today, we verify over 62,000 products across all grocery categories. That equates to over 120,000 UPCs, representing about $50 billion in annual sales. In a bit, we'll talk more about why shoppers actually seek out butterfly verification. But first, we'll hear from my coworker Samuel about what the process of getting verified actually looks like. Sam?
Awesome. Thanks, Hans, for a little bit of background on the Non-GMO Project. Now I'll jump into some more of the nuts and the bolts of what we call our PVP, or Product Verification Program. So if you're ready to get your products verified, this is going to be an important section for you. So at the Non-GMO Project, we write and own the standard for our program. And in order to ensure an unbiased evaluation, we then work with 4 independent third-party companies who do the actual evaluation of products. We call those companies our technical administrators, or you might hear them called TAs for short. I like to say that we write the rules in our standard and the technical administrators make sure your product meets those rules. So with that, one of the first big steps towards getting your products verified with the Non-GMO Project is actually choosing which one of those 4 technical administrators you want to work with. All 4 of our technical administrators use our standard to design the product evaluation. So regardless of which technical administrator you choose to work with, you're going to need to meet the requirements that are outlined in our standard, and you'll end up with our verification mark at the end of the process, that little orange butterfly that everybody knows so well. One of the best tools you have to choose which technical administrator you want to work with is actually just to reach out to them directly to ask for a price quote and timeline that's specific to your products. So after you've chosen your technical administrator, you're going to sign a contract with that technical administrator for the products that you want to get verified at that time. You can always choose to enroll more products at any point. So some brands opt to just start with a couple, maybe flagship products or ones that they think are going to work well with verification and see how that goes, and then enroll more products later. So once you've signed that contract, you're going to sign a non-GMO project license agreement. And the nice thing about signing that license agreement right at the start of the process is it does get you and your team access to our trademarks for design purposes. So I've seen firsthand how this has helped save some people when they're doing the label redesign at the same time as going through verification. It gives you a little bit more timeline to work with. So once you have signed a license agreement, your technical administrator is really going to get into the product evaluation with you. And a product evaluation will typically start as a desk audit where the TA reviews your product formulation and sourcing. Next, the TA will use our standard to design an evaluation that's specific for your products. Our program is a bit different than some others you might have worked with in the past because it takes into account inputs and ingredients rather than relying on final product testing. So in other words, you're not just going to send your finished product to your technical administrator to test for GMO presence. Instead, product formulations are broken down into major, minor, and micro ingredients and evaluated accordingly. In the TA review, each product's complete formulation will be reviewed, including inputs and processing aids that are not present on the final ingredient plan panel or supplemental facts panel. During this evaluation, TAs request documentation and/or testing if that's required to demonstrate that inputs are not GMOs or derived from GMOs. TAs are also going to be looking for the use of what we call high-risk ingredients. So high-risk ingredients refers to our list here at the Non-GMO Project of crops and inputs that are highly likely to be genetically modified and are also widely commercially available. At this time, that list includes alfalfa, canola, corn, cotton, papaya, soy, sugar beet, zucchini and yellow summer squash, potato, apple, eggplant, pineapple, and animal-derived materials. And the reason these ingredients get on our high-risk list is, again, because they're very prevalent as GMOs and they're widely commercially available. So, for example, in the US, 99% of sugar beets are GMOs and 95% of canola is GMO. So if you are working with a high-risk input or ingredient, it may mean that a sampling and testing plan could be required as part of your evaluation. The reason for that is these high-risk ingredients are very likely to be GMOs, so we look at them with a lot more scrutiny to make sure that they are in fact non-GMO. If you do have a testing plan that is required, your technical administrator would be able to help set you up with the correct accredited labs for our program and walk you through that process. It's important to keep in mind that high risk in our program can also include the derivatives of these crops as well, and they can show up in a lot of different things. For example, citric acid, corn syrup, like Hans mentioned, flavorings and colorings, just to name a few. Another high-risk input or ingredient at the project is anything animal-derived. Animal-derived ingredients are considered high risk due to the prevalence of GMOs like corn and soy in animal feed. So that would include products like milk, cheese, and eggs, as well as their derivatives. So once you're...
Can I ask you a quick question that came in through the chat about the technical administrators? I think you said there are 4 of them, you said? Or...
Yeah, that's correct.
How do people find out who they are? And do they all have like similar pricing, or it could be very different, or you just have to like negotiate with each one of them?
Yeah, that's a great question. If you go to non-gmoproject.org, you can find a technical administrators page that has a little bit more info about each of their companies, as well as what we call their fee structures, which outline kind of roughly how they charge for their portion of verification. I will say that the fees from technical administrators do vary. I've seen price quotes come back very different for the same types of products. So with that, what I always recommend is reaching out to all 4 technical administrators. I really think it's worth your time to do your due diligence at the beginning of the process, establish who's going to have the best business relationship with you, what price is going to work and timeline, and go from there. But it does vary, and unfortunately, there's not like a cheapest always. It really depends on the product. So my best suggestion is just to take the time to reach out to all four.
Great. And keep the questions coming, guys. And then obviously, like, you can talk to Sam one-on-one also. I'm just putting their contact info here in the chat again. Get started at non-gmoproject.org.
Yeah, and I'm also active in the startup Slack. So Sam/non-GMO project, you should be able to find me, and feel free to shoot me a message there. So yeah, jumping back into it, once you've signed your license agreement at the start of the process, your product evaluation has been successfully complete with your technical administrator. So either turning in that documentation, or if necessary, getting any testing done. That's when you'll be issued use of the non-GMO project trademarks. And at that time, you can start using our verification mark in a retail setting and in your own marketing material. Your technical administrator will also provide you with your certificate of verification, or COV. If you've ever had a buyer or distributor ask you if you're non-GMO project verified, that COV is going to be your best friend. That's the document they're looking for to prove your verified status. That COV is refreshed annually upon your annual renewal with your technical administrator. So getting into it, the pricing question, one of the most frequently questions we get is, how much does this cost? And it really depends. Depending on the number of products you're looking to enroll, any high-risk ingredient testing that might apply to your products, and the need for a potential facility inspection, if you're working with high-risk ingredients, the program investment can range from $1,500 to $8,000, and it's paid directly to your chosen technical administrator. Of that cost, $115 per product goes directly to the non-GMO project. So again, that's why it's really important to reach out to those technical administrators to understand the full cost of verification for your products specifically. Our second most frequently asked question is, how long will verification take? And again, every product is unique, so no two product evaluations will be exactly the same. Time to verification really depends on the complexity of the product formulation and how quickly you, as the participant, can provide the necessary documentation. On average, we see this process take brands about 3 to 6 months. But the best way, again, you can get an accurate timeline is to reach out to those technical administrators. And I will say that I have seen it go much faster. Brands that have close ties with where they're sourcing their ingredients and manufacturing, packaging their product can usually get this done even quicker. And with that, I'll hand it back over to Hans to talk a little bit more about why brands choose to go through that product verification program.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, Sam. So we have about 5,000 brands that currently work with us on those over 60,000 formulations, again, over 120,000 individual UPCs. So why have so many worked with us? Well, we believe our mission is incredibly important. Our mission is really our brand story. We want to help build a better food system, ingredient by ingredient, and we think a lot of small startup food brands have that same mission. At the end of the day, it's really about putting your values into action, and we hope we're here to help you do that. Because let's face it, food companies aren't always held in the highest esteem, even when they are honestly trying to make the best products they can. Shoppers don't always believe what they see in advertising or in marketing. They don't even necessarily believe what they read on food packages. Greenwashing is a thing we're all aware of, right? It's making claims about doing things the right way, but it's making that claim without really showing your work. So this is why we talk about certification being a shortcut to consumer trust. If you as a brand want to source the best non-GMO ingredients, then you can overcome any shopper distrust by getting verified by the most recognized non-GMO certifier in our part of the world. So here's a key takeaway. If natural retailers and natural shoppers are your people, the people you want to be reaching with your products, non-GMO project verification matters to that community a lot. And now it really behooves me to show my work, right? So every three years, we conduct a professional grade survey with our research partner, Linkage Consulting. In this survey, we ask a representative sample of US and Canadian shoppers all kinds of questions. But basically, it comes down to, what do you care about the most when you go shopping? This is a chart that's a very specific data point in that survey group, and you can check non-GMOproject.org for full reporting that we do on a regular basis in this research. But this chart is really just looking at recognition of certification marks. We give a panel of the 10 most common certifications, put them in front of over 1,000 shoppers, adult age shoppers, US and Canada, and the results we put together into a chart like this. Now, in this chart, shoppers are asked which of those certifications they're familiar with when it comes to shopping for food, and when they're deciding what foods to buy for themselves and their family, how important is each certification in this panel. Now you can see that USDA Organic and Non-GMO Project Verified are the two most recognized certifications of the top 10. They were actually the only two certifications that continued to grow through the pandemic and beyond the pandemic. And we've seen that trend continue in intermediate surveys that we've done since then. So the actual number of shoppers who recognize the Non-GMO Project Butterfly is 66%, or now that's 2/3 of all shopping adults in the US and Canada, and it tracks right along with recognition of the organic mark, both USDA Organic and Canada Organic. Just to put a finer point on this, we asked this question in 3 different ways. First, do you just recognize the certification mark? Second, do you think it's important? And finally, when you see it, do you find yourself more likely to buy that product? Now, the interesting thing is that, of course, there are plenty of people who don't really give GMOs much of a thought. They might be sort of meh on the issue, and yet they still feel like a certification makes them more likely to buy that product. We call that the trust dividend, and we think it's true of any credible certification. Why? Well, because they see now that food company is one that puts its money where its mouth is. It shares its secret recipes, its formulas, it opens the book, whatever, with an objective, independent organization. It's actually investing in transparency. And here's the thing, we don't actually compete with other certifiers, we actually support them. Certifications tend to bolster one another. So if I have any advice to you all today, it would be this. Find a certification that really lines up with your values as an organization. Shoppers will reward you. If that happens to be the Non-GMO Project, that's great. If not, we do hope you will look at Fair Trade America, look at Organic, look at Marine Stewardship Council. There are certifications for women-owned businesses, vegan certifications. Whatever values are embedded in your brand story, really think about seeking out a verification that aligns with those values. Now, back to non-GMO. As I said, 2/3 of all shoppers recognize the Non-GMO Project Butterfly, but of course, you all aren't necessarily trying to target all shoppers. You have specific market segments in mind, whether they're mothers of young children, they're fitness enthusiasts, they're vegetarians, whatever. You have your target market in mind. And of course, many of you are probably targeting natural shoppers, those people who are looking for premium products that are healthy, that are environmentally sustainable, and so on. Now, in our research, we've determined that about 40% of all shopping adults are actually falling within that natural shopper category. That's 117 million people in the US and Canada. And this group is especially motivated to buy non-GMO foods. A whopping 90% of what we call natural shoppers want to avoid GMOs. And they're literally putting their money where their mouths are. 85% of natural shoppers are more likely to buy a verified product than a similar one that isn't verified. And among this group, nearly 9 out of 10 are actually willing to pay more for it, at least 5% more. But a third of that group are actually willing to pay a 10% or higher premium. What's a typical premium, you might ask? How much more expensive are verified products on the grocery store shelf? Across all categories, all products, all sizes, the average premium is 50 cents. Now, it's also important to note that that doesn't mean your product has to be more expensive than similar products. In fact, there are lots of categories of food products where non-verified products actually cost more. And we also know that conventional products tend to be more vulnerable to price inflation. I could say a lot more about this, but suffice to say that non-GMO supply chains, especially for high-risk ingredients, tend to be a lot more stable because they're usually bought in advance on contract. A quick word about retailers. When we've asked brands directly what their top reasons are for getting verified, there have always been two primary reasons. First, they just agree with our mission and they want to be in the community with other brands and shoppers and farmers who are committed to non-GMO. Second, though, they want access to retailers, distributors, and brokers who have a preference for non-GMO Project Verified because it simplifies their jobs. We have heard many stories of small brands who want to get placement in, say, Whole Foods. Well, Whole Foods has a purchasing policy that says you must carry a certification for certain kinds of claims. Non-GMO is one of the big ones. So access to markets is the second main reason brands tell us they seek out verification. I mentioned greenwashing earlier. This is one of the reasons Whole Foods has some pretty rigorous requirements. So retailers and shoppers are often skeptical of self-made claims. We've sort of covered that. One other big reason to consider actual verification, though, is that GMOs are so common, as Samuel said, that even a well-intentioned food company can end up with GMOs in their supply network without even knowing it. This happened to Kashi about 10 years ago. They're the big breakfast cereal company. They claimed to be non-GMO. They made it an important part of their brand story, but a watchdog group actually tested their products and found that they did test hot for GMOs. Many retailers actually took the step of taking Kashi products off of their shelves as a result of that small scandal, right? Not so small for Kashi. Some say that Kashi never fully recovered from that. So we do work with companies to try to prevent that from ever happening in the first place. I will say that we also have plenty of evidence that verified non-GMO products actually sell better than those with a self-made claim. And the last point, I said earlier that certifications don't really compete with each other. Actually, it's more than that. We have a lot of evidence that certifications actually complement each other and perform better on the same product. So for example, non-GMO Project Verified and USDA organic products sell better at a faster velocity than either one does alone. Sometimes I think it's really helpful for individual brands to get a picture of what's going on in the whole marketplace. What are other brands doing? And we're happy to talk about this because we have some pretty awesome research tools like access to the Mintel Global New Products database. For example, I can tell you that about 1,000 new natural products are launched each month. And we can tell you that nearly 30% of them are non-GMO Project verified as of July 1st. Significantly more than products with that self-made claim. About 19% of natural products are making that self-made claim. So now I'll turn it over to my coworker, Alicia. She's going to talk about what we can do for you after you get verified. Alicia?
Thanks so much, Hans. And hi, everyone. My name is Alicia, and I'm the client engagement lead here at the project. And so at this point, you've heard how our team has successfully built a market for non-GMO project verified products by growing recognition for the butterfly and building deep consumer trust. And that trust is one of the most valuable assets as a brand. And it's something that brands can weave into their own story so shoppers feel confident choosing your products. So in my portion of today's webinar, I'll walk you through how we support that journey, not just in getting verified, but also in maximizing the value of verification. And so I'll be covering the butterfly's reach in the marketplace so you can see the scale of awareness you can be tapping into. Industry resources available on our website for consumers, leads, and brands. And these are really tools designed to educate, connect, and support folks in the non-GMO community. Ways verified brands can leverage the verification through marketing, storytelling, and promotional opportunities. And finally, the Equitable Transfer Program, which is a grant-based program where BIPOC-led companies can apply for funding to help cover or offset costs associated with non-GMO project verification. And so by the end, my hope is you'll have a clear sense of the reach, resources, and opportunities available to you as part of the non-GMO project community, and once verified, how they can help your products and your mission stand out in the marketplace. So the butterfly mark has become a familiar sight in grocery aisles across North America, and these numbers really speak for themselves, and they represent the trust and values that today's shoppers are actively seeking out. And this first set of numbers may seem redundant from earlier, but I thought it was worth speaking to again. So Today, the Non-GMO Project verified products represent nearly $50 billion in the marketplace. And again, that's over 123 verified SKUs from more than 6,000 brands. So proof that the butterfly is one of the most recognized and sought after certifications in the CPG space. And our audience extends far beyond the shelves. Our social media following grows year over year, fueled by daily posts that highlight verified brands, share breaking GMO news, and engage in larger conversations about food and farming and even policy. Non-GMO Project website continues to be a top destination for consumers and industry professionals looking to learn, verify facts, and connect with our mission. And I'll share more about the resources available there later in the presentation. Our monthly newsletters reach over 35,000 subscribers, and these are segmented for brands, retailers, leads, and consumers, and they are each tailored for their own relevance. And these consistently achieve a 36% open rate, which is well above industry averages. So for emerging brands, this reach means more than visibility. It's an opportunity to connect your products with a community of value-driven shoppers and retailers who are actively looking for the butterfly. So as you can see, the butterfly has a powerful presence in the marketplace, and that recognition only continues to grow. But our impact isn't just on shelves or in numbers. We've really built a network of resources that help brands, retailers, and consumers stay informed and connected. So let's take a look at what's available. At the Non-GMO Project, we've built our expertise around understanding GMOs and how they enter their food supply, and more importantly, how to protect it. So our dedicated team stays on top of the latest research and regulations and market trends so we can share timely and relevant insights with our entire community. And our website is a hub for these resources. So whether you're exploring verification or actively in our program, or simply just passionate about clean, transparent food, you'll find tools and information designed to meet your needs. And you can access our educational content. So this is where you can learn about GMOs, why safeguarding the food supply matters, and why shoppers care. And our expert written blog posts and FAQs offer clarity on complex topics. And we also feature guest articles from the verified brand sharing their own journey. And our marketing resource library is a comprehensive collection that includes our standard, program rules and procedures, details on our technical administrators, and also a step-by-step guidance for getting verified. Our product finder, which is our most visited webpage, is a powerful search tool that lists non-GMO project verified products. So anywhere from finished goods to ingredients and inputs. Consumers use it to confirm their favorite products are in fact verified, and brands use it to source verified ingredients for new or existing product formulations. So if you're in the R&D phase, this is a really great page for you to visit. And these resources aren't just informative. They're designed to help you make strategic decisions and connect you with your audience and align with the growing demand for transparency in the food system. And they're here to support brands at every stage, from the moment you first explore verification to ongoing journey as a brand with verified products. But once you've earned the butterfly, the next step is really making sure that the world knows about it. And that's where our marketing opportunities start to show up. So getting verified is a major achievement. It represents your brand's commitment to transparency and integrity and consumer trust. But it's just the start. So once you've earned the butterfly, there are many ways to showcase it and connect with a growing audience that's actively seeking it out. Our marketing team has developed a suite of opportunities to help verified brands tell their story and really stand out in a crowded marketplace. And one way we support that is through guest blog features. Brands can share their unique perspective, mission, and passion, whether they're explaining why non-GMO project verification matters to their brand, sharing recipes that feature their verified products, or even highlighting new product launches. Our blog is really a great platform for verified brands to connect directly with these value-driven consumers and the broader food community. And these live right on our website. We also spotlight verified brands across our growing social media channels, so introducing them to new audiences and giving them credibility with a trusted third-party voice. And if you haven't visited our social medias, it's a beautiful space and a great place to connect with like-minded consumers and industry peers. We also have customizable media kits. So we've created a library of ready-to-use, visually engaging media kits that make it easy to share verification milestones and really highlight verified products on brand socials. And these kits include newly verified celebrations where brands can announce their achievement and verified products with pride, as well as category-specific kits where brands can showcase their verified products within a specific product category, which differentiates their brand from others in that category space. So we love working directly with brands to amplify what's most important to them, whether that's new product launch, sustainability initiative, or even a broader call to action. Our team is here to help brainstorm ways to align your story with the butterfly's reach. And when brands leverage these opportunities, they're not just celebrating the certification, they're really strengthening their brand's voice and building consumer trust and joining a movement that's reshaping the future of food. So next, I want to introduce the Equitable Transfer Program, or ETP, because our organization loves acronyms. The Equitable Transfer Program is a grant-based initiative that helps cover or offset costs associated with non-GMO project verification for BIPOC-led companies, either enrolling or renewing products in our product verification program. And this program was launched as a pilot in early 2023 and was created to address barriers that BIPOC-led brands often face in accessing sustainable supply chains and gaining visibility for their products. So each round, the project grants up to a maximum of $10,000. And for context, the program began with a $5,000 cap and has grown to provide more support to more recipients each round over the last couple of years. And since its start, the ETP has transferred $36,000 in resources to 13 brands. But the program's goal really goes beyond funding. We strive to build connections and long-term opportunities. And one way we have started to do this is through roundtables, where recipients are brought together to network and share their experiences with the grant and the opportunities it has created for them. And we're really beginning to explore some ways to involve recipients in the program itself wherever possible. So whether that's serving on the selection committee or mentoring other BIPOC-led organizations or engaging in other networking opportunities, from the beginning, our intention has been to ensure that recipients aren't just beneficiaries, but active partners in shaping the program's future. And we aim to provide not only financial support, but also meaningful ways for people to connect, collaborate, and contribute to the ongoing development of this grant. One inspiring example, Mohabbat Salahi of Hooray Spice is a past recipient, is now part of the Food Integrity Collective, which is an initiative started by the Non-GMO Project that brings together industry professionals that work together to co-create alternatives to the industrial food system. And he also currently serves on our board of directors. And little teaser, you'll also hear from another grant recipient in just a few minutes who can speak directly to the program's impact. Lastly, recipients have shared that the grant helped lift the financial burden of certification, freeing resources for innovation and growth. And many also saw a boost in community visibility thanks to national press releases and local media coverage that was facilitated by the project. So applications are currently open now until August 29th at 5 p.m. and that's going to be Pacific Standard Time. And you can find further details and also apply at our website. So that's non-gmoproject.org, and it's going to be right under the verifications tab. Okay, as promised, next up, we're excited to introduce Non-GMO Project Verified Brand and Equitable Transfer Program recipient, Dojo Fresh. Hi, Oliver. Welcome, and thanks for sitting patiently through all of this.
No, good afternoon, good morning on the West Coast.
Yes, you're sitting over on the East Coast, so it's a little bit later for you.
Yeah, so thanks for for having me be a part of this discussion. Obviously, the Non-GMO Project has been an important part of our brand, but so has Startup CPG. So being here is really, really meaningful for us. So we are Dojo Fresh. We're based in Cary, North Carolina, and we produce a shelf-stable plant protein mix that lets you make your own meatless products at home. Some It's a mix where you just add water and can create your own crumbles, nuggets, patties, whatever you like. One of the reasons we started Dojo Fresh was because my wife and we just started eating less meat as a way to get healthier. And at that time, when we started almost 5 years ago, there was a lot of innovation in the meatless space, a lot of new products being introduced. Except we were more attracted to some of these really old plant proteins that were used a lot in Asian cooking. Foods like tofu and tempeh and a wheat-based protein called seitan. We were eating that not because they were plant-based, and it was not because they tasted like chicken, beef, or pork. We ate it just because we thought it was good. So our plant protein mixes is just an easy way for you to make fresh seitan at home. And the idea is giving you an easy way of making a meatless meal. It's something that's a good source of protein, but we also wanted to make it with really simple, familiar ingredients. We were real thoughtful about what went into our product, and the non-GMO project verification just really aligned with that goal. And we just wanted to send a signal to our customers that this was something that was important to us.
That's great. Thanks for sharing a little bit about your brand and some reasons why you've become Non-GMO Project verified. Can you talk to some of the ways your brand has seen value from Non-GMO Project verification?
I think so much of what you talked about earlier in this presentation, we see, we see it in real life. It is a logo that is highly recognized by at markets. For our customers, one of the first things they usually do is they'll turn the package around, go through the nutrition panel, look at our ingredients. These are something is something that they really care about. And sometimes just seeing that non-GMO project logo on the front of your package is a shortcut to give them confidence that the ingredients are good. And likewise, the stores that carry us are generally more of our local co-ops and natural food stores. And again, just the right audience for wanting non-GMO products on their shelves. So it's something that we see being a lot of value added for our product. And it's also a little bit of a value added for our company as well. When we first started, we actually always thought that the non-GMO logo was for big companies, and we didn't think of a small company like ours being able to get that non-GMO logo. And I think other people think that as well, because people think we're a much bigger company than we actually are. Even when we're at a local farmers market, sometimes they think we're corporate representatives as opposed to a small family business, which is it's nice that our customers, stores that carry us, can look at us as a serious professional brand.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, consumer trust is key. Absolutely. Can you share a little bit about what you found helpful to know during the verification process or would have liked to know before starting the process of verification?
Yeah. So when I first started, I was just thinking that the process was about the ingredients. If you had non-GMO ingredients, then you're good to go. But it really covers the entire process in terms of who your suppliers are, how you ship and store, how you produce your products. And again, starting a small business, I really relied on people before me who had experience in opening up a startup CPG brand, but I didn't know anyone who went through the non-GMO certification process. So, there was a little bit of blind faith in going through the process. And, now seeing the resources that are available to me, you had mentioned the non-GMO website.
Mm-hmm.
Really good resources there. I originally had really just focused more on the process, knowing who the technical administrators are, but the standard is there as well, and it gives you an opportunity to really dig in and understand the process all the way through. But at the same time, when you do sign up for the first time with your technical administrator, they're gonna assign an advisor they're gonna walk you through the process, and that's just really helpful there.
Yeah. Yeah, I just kind of breezed over some of the resources that we have available on our website. It really is a bank of information and a lot of great information for brands just starting out, as well as brands that are already in our program and retailers. And we even get students who kind of tap us for some questions. So there's definitely a lot there. Thank you for sharing that. And I want to save some time for some questions at the end, but I just have one more question. You were a recipient of the Equitable Transfer Program grant, and can you share a little bit about that experience?
Yeah. So before the Equitable Transfer Program, the non-GMO project verification was really just aspirational, something that we had hoped that we could achieve long term. And it was through that program where funding was available that we started to dig in a little bit more, learn about the process. And what we learned was that it is attainable for a company like ours. And, the more I thought about it, the more I made the connection between the importance of our product and being non-GMO certified. So even though that first round of application that we went through, we didn't get it, we convinced ourselves that it was worthy, and we went ahead and got the certification, saw value in it, continued with it through renewal processes, and eventually we were able to reapply to the grant, and we were able to get it. And we're real grateful for that. But again, as you had mentioned, it's not just the funding that we get with it. One, it just makes us feel good that the story that we have, the product that we have is was worthy of the grant. And then the support that y'all have provided for us, whether it's getting press releases out there, that's been just super helpful. And we want to do more.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for speaking to that. I really enjoyed cultivating the relationship with you, Oliver. It's been a great journey just learning about you and your brand and what's important to you. And I really appreciate you joining us today for this conversation.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and like Oliver mentioned, if you aren't selected as a recipient for the round that you applied to or for, then please keep applying, because we have different selection committees each year or each round. And yeah, don't give up.
All right. So thank you, Oliver. And I wanted to drop in the resource for on the Non-GMO Project website. I'm just dropping into the chat the link where you can actually look through all the ingredients that they have that are non-GMO. That's something that I wish that I had known about when I was a brand. We were trying to find some backup suppliers for a couple ingredients. So I just dropped that there. Definitely check it out. There's a lot on there. So I want to get to a couple of the Q&A stuff. So Jacqueline had asked, is organic automatically non-GMO, or can there be GMO seeds that are raised organically, so therefore their output is GMO? Is that a question for Hans or Sam or?
Yeah, any of us can jump in on that. We get this question a lot, and organic is one of the big categories of products that will make a self-made non-GMO claim. And it's interesting because organic prohibits the use of GMOs in that production cycle, but there's no mechanism for testing. The National Organic Program moves very slowly, so they don't adapt to new genetically modified organisms and ingredients coming into the market. We've found when we've done broad-based testing of the marketplace, we have found organic products that test positive for presence of GMOs. We're super supportive of organic, but we're also careful to say it's not a GMO avoidance program. It doesn't offer the same assurances around the GMO issue that the project does with our standard and our verification. We keep our definitions updated. We rewrite the standard. Essentially, it gets revised, I think, on a 2-year cycle. We get a lot of input, public comment from brands like you all about what you like in the standard, what you might have questions about or doubts about. So yeah, we're just closer to the GMO issue than organic is. Would never say a bad word about organic. I worked for 5 years, specifically in the organic industry. Love what they do, and oftentimes when we give these presentations, we'll talk about what we perceive to be the gold standard in terms of certifications around natural, clean label would be organic plus non-GMO Project verified. Now we're aware, obviously, brands, there's cost attached to certification, right? Organic can be very expensive and difficult to source ingredients. We're aware that non-GMO, especially with higher risk ingredients, can be expensive. So asking brands to, go after that gold standard is oftentimes asking a smaller startup company, asking them to make a pretty big financial commitment to 2 different programs. What we found, I like to talk about non-GMO Project verification as being transitional to a better food product. Like we have as I think my colleagues laid out, a pretty well-established pathway to getting to a certification. It's not necessarily going to be cheaper than organic. It depends on what the product is. But sourcing the ingredients might be a little bit easier, and it might be a good start, right? Oliver spoke about being every brand should be aspirational, constant improvement. You want to make your product better and better over time. You want new formulations. You want new varieties. So just consider certification a part of that process of continuous improvement. Do what you can near term, set your sights on bigger goals, look at fair trade if you're sourcing ingredients from the global south, for example. If you have seafood products, look at Marine Stewardship Council. They all have their focus areas in the food industry, and that's why I like to say all of us certifiers, we're not really competing with each other. We're all pulling in the same direction. We just have these areas of specialization that we work on. I don't know, Samuel, or Alicia, if you have anything more you want to add there.
You covered it
All
pretty
right.
well.
Great. Thank you, Hans. I'm adding into the chat here. So Sam has offered up time for anyone who wants to chat with him, which is very nice of him. And he's in our Slack channel as well. So if you want to actually just set up a call with him, because I know we're not going to get to everybody's questions, unfortunately, the link is now in the chat and you can set up time. And he's a nice guy. You'll have a nice time. I want to go back to one question that's around the cost. So somebody had asked, like, is the annual fee per product or per UPC? And somebody else was asking, like, yeah, what should we budget for the certification? So can we talk one more time about, like, okay, the TAs, I think you said 1,500 to like 8K could be, but like, is that per, like, it's going to depend on probably the number of SKUs that you have and the number of formulations. And then the next year, you're going to have to pay the TA that full fee again, or is it easier when you renew with them? But then you'll just be paying the non-GMO project fee, or who wants to take that one?
I can speak to that in a little more detail. So at the Non-GMO Project, we consider a product a unique formulation or manufacturing process. So what that usually means is if it's a different recipe, it's going to be a new product in our program. If it's the same recipe in 4 different sizes, that's still just one product in our program. So it's really based on like unique ingredients or manufacturing process. As far as the TA fees go, yeah, ours is $115 per product. So it makes up a small portion of the overall fee. And that's why it's really hard for us to give you a super accurate price quote for your product specifically. There is a bunch of factors. How many products you choose to enroll that have unique formulations is definitely a big one. How complex those product formulations are. So if there's 50 ingredients, it'll be more expensive than if there's 2. If you're working with what we called high-risk ingredients that are going to require sampling and testing and potentially a facility inspection, that can also increase the cost. So it does vary significantly. That $1,500 to $8,000 number is rough ballpark that most all brands are going to fall into. But really best way to figure it out is to reach out to the technical administrators directly. And again, I really recommend reaching out to all 4. You might find that you get a much better deal with one than the others. And then at time of renewal, there is a fee from the technical administrators, and the non-GMO project fee of $115 per product will stay the same. So you will pay that again. The technical administrator side of things, from what I hear from brands, usually a pretty reduced cost. And it's usually a bit easier if you're renewing the same product. They're really looking for changes to sourcing and manufacturing that have happened during the year that maybe you didn't let them know about.
All right, perfect. And then one interesting question that came through in the chat. So somebody was asking about like, oh, if I'm the brand owner, but then there's like I'm not really the producer, but we have an exclusive cooperation, who should actually get the certificate? Is it me or is it the producer?
Yeah, that's a great question. I can answer that one too. So in our program, either the brand or a co-packer could choose to enroll products. If a brand chooses to have their co-packer enroll products on their behalf, they just need to sign an additional document to our license agreement. Some brands choose to do that. Yeah, if your co-packer is sourcing ingredients for you and or co-manufacturing, manufacturing the product, it can be a lot easier for them to collect the required documentation and get that to your technical administrator. So it'd really be up to you all as the brand if you or co-packer want to enroll products on your behalf.
All right. So I'm just going to wrap us up here because we're hitting the end of our time. But I really want to thank the Non-GMO Project team for being here. I think this is just one of those things that really helps to have someone just talk you through it a little bit so you know what the process is going to be like and how to plan for it. And I think it's really good for brands to understand at the onset if they think it's something that's going to be important to their consumers and their product, so that then you can source ingredients that way and like use all these resources and co-mans that will then have a better chance of having the whole thing be a little bit less onerous, if you just plan the right way. So thank you guys. Any word to end on from the Non-GMO Project team?
Just to thank you, Daniel, and thank the community. As I say, love you all. One exciting new thing that we're working on is actually a new certification around ultra processing. We're hoping to launch a non-UPF label similar to non-GMO, but really covering the ultra processing question. So keep your eyes open for that. You can check out our website that we're developing around that called, and that address, I believe, is nonultraprocessed.org.
Ultraprocessed.org. Cool. I'm going to make a note of that. I'll just drop that into the chat here so everyone has the link as well. Cool. Very exciting. Well, it'll be cool to stay tuned on that one and also learn a little bit more from you guys about kind of what's going on with like MAHA and some of these certifications and how retailers are viewing them. But yeah, thank you guys again. And I mean, yeah, just realistically, I am hearing from retailers also a little bit more that they really do want to see certifications, not kind of just self-claim stuff in some instances. Everybody gets it. Like, you're a brand, you got to be scrappy, do what you got to do. But I think, this will be a really good one for everyone to have the info on and have heard about and use all the resources that are available. So thank you guys again. Thank you everyone for all the great questions. And we will see you all next time. If we can get to one of your questions, please reach out to the Non-GMO Project team. Bye, everybody. Thank you.